Bringing the soul into harmony, following Plato and his chariot allegory. Hello, everyone. Thank you for joining me today. This is Taliesin McKnight. And today I'm going to be going into how to bring the soul into harmony according to Platonic philosophy. Bringing the soul into harmony. And this is more than just some spiritual thing detached from the world. This is actually extremely practical. And by the way, I'd like to sincerely apologize to my Patreon subscribers because I've been in like a funk lately. I found it very difficult. It was interesting. I talked about that Yahoo formula. I've just been in this funk where I've just found it impossible to make myself do the content. But thankfully, I think I'm coming out of that now. But, I always believe in being real with y'all and with my viewer. So, there's nothing I could really say except that I'm sorry. And, I really do appreciate my Patreon subscribers. I haven't really lost any. Or I lost a couple and then gained a couple. But, I just really appreciate people sticking with me and not, hopping off. Because I went through kind of like a funk where I didn't do any stuff. But I really do appreciate y'all sticking with me. So it really does mean a lot. And, like I said, I always believe in being real with, I even hate saying the viewer, because we're all people, right? I don't know, it's a very detached way of looking at the viewer, but I really do appreciate y'all for hanging in there with me while I get through this funk where I found it hard to produce content. But I've been studying like crazy for hours and hours every day, as I usually do. So I've been studying a great deal. I'm really interested, well, I'm getting off my topic, in theurgy and the classical Greek material. And this idea of ritual being redemptive to the soul. That through proper use of ceremony, we could elevate ourselves and attain kenosis or union with the divine through ritual. That's something that always interested me. It's something that always kind of attracted me to things like the Elu Kohen, which is a totally other topic. I'm going all over the place here, off the cuff, y'all. But the Elu Kohen, this has nothing to do with today's theme. We are going a little off topic, but like the Elu Kohen were a form of Freemasonry that combined grimoire magic with Freemasonry. And with the grimoire magic, you would have spirits and things marked on the ground. And the idea is that through the summoning of spirits, you're going to obtain a redemption, reintegration. Martinez de Pasquale called it, the founder of this system. And through ceremony and invocation of spirits, we could redeem the soul. And I always thought that was pretty interesting, the Elu Kohen. There are some modern orders associated with that, but anyways, I've been getting a lot into theurgy, but it's a topic that I feel that I need to study a lot more before making content on it. And also I've been spending hours every day really trying to get a good handle on medieval astrology and reading Robert Zoller and things like that. And it's very basic stuff that I already know, but just drilling it in my head. So even though I haven't been making content, I've been studying really feverishly. But anyways, to today's theme. Yeah, thank you for sticking with me on Patreon. And even though I haven't really been doing stuff, it really does mean a lot. So I just want to show my gratitude, and I mean that. And you could see my because I do the work that I talk about. My witch's ladder, garland, or whatever you want to call it, for the repetition of things and calling on spirits. But anyways, today we're talking about Plato's allegory, chariot allegory of the soul. And Plato likens the soul through the mouth of Socrates to a charioteer with a white horse and a black horse. And this is basically what is called the tripartite soul, or the three parts of the soul. Kind of like Agrippa has the three-world model of the elementary, celestial, and divine. Similar, not the same. But it's the tripartite soul. This appears in the dialogue called the Phaedras, that talks about the nature of love. And, Plato talks about how, in talking about love, someone that is drawn towards, that is attracted by lunar type people, that is indirectly, in a sense, a worship of Artemis. Or someone that's drawn towards an Aphrodite or Venus type figure, that's indirectly, it's a worship of Aphrodite. Or that someone that's drawn towards a Mars-like figure, male or female, or a Zeus-like or Jupiterian figure, that through the lover, they're really beholding, in a sense, the archetype beyond. And so through this classical Greek lens, that there are 12 Olympian gods, there are 12 basic types of people, and that the lover, in being drawn towards a martial or a Jupiterian person, they're really beholding what they're in love with, in the sense that love is towards the archetype, the Platonic idea behind. So if you imagine like a triangle, they're the lovers, but the lover, through the Zeus-like person, is really being drawn towards Zeus and encouraging those Zeus-like or Jupiterian qualities or martial qualities. And that basically, as the lovers draw close, they're being drawn upwards towards the divine, in a sense. So that's pretty interesting. And I'm going to read out the text that has to do with the tripartite soul. But tripartite means of three parts. Tripartite. 3 parts. So the idea is that the soul, and when he says the soul, he's also he is talking about our immortal aspect, but he's also talking about the psyche. So like psychology and who we are as human beings. So there are 3 levels of the soul. There is the logical reasoning faculty, which is represented by the charioteer, and then a white horse and a black horse. So the black horse kind of representing the darkness of earth. The black horse represents the appetites, the desires for pleasures and things. Okay. So kind of like the earthly quality of appetites. So that part of the soul is drawn by desire for pleasure, food, sex, beautiful surroundings. Okay, you could say food and drink and sex and sensual pleasures. That is part of the soul. It's the black horse that has to do with our desire, we're being drawn by pleasures, right? Food, sex, sensual surroundings, things like that. The white horse for Plato represented the spirited aspect of the soul, the heroic aspect, that part of our nature that wants to strive towards something greater, that heroic, spirited part of the soul that's not just focused on pleasure and things, it's focused on greatness, the desire for glory and honor and reputation and for greatness, okay, to go out there and achieve something great. So these are the three different levels of the soul, or three different sides. We have the logic, which is the charioteer, and the black and white horse that represent the appetitive part of the soul that wants pleasures, and the spirited side of the soul that wants greatness, expansion, glory, honor, things like that. The desire to go out there and achieve greatness, which is not necessarily a selfish thing. It could be to cure cancer. It could be to do something great that you've achieved. You've become more than who you are, right? So we often have this dichotomy. There's a side to our nature that wants to sleep, that wants to stay in bed, that wants to just sit and sleep and eat and have sex and have pleasures, right? And the other side of our nature wants to get up and seize the day, go out there and conquer, go out there and achieve something great, not necessarily for yourself, but also for the world. And so we have this division between the appetitive and the spirited qualities of the soul. And so let's say that you want to start a business or anything, right? That part of you that wants to start a business, okay, to be the best healer or the best whatever your profession is that you can be, to serve the community, that desire, that heroic spirited quality, I'm going to achieve this. Or even I often talk about the idea of going to the gym. That's that spirited quality. I'm going to go in there, I'm going to hit the gym, I'm going to get in shape, right? The appetitive quality just wants to stay at home and sleep and have sex and eat. So, when you have trouble getting out of bed or motivating yourself to do something, that's really a war between the two horses. Now, the key is not to kill the black horse. As some spiritual systems say, you should just cut off a desire for sex and pleasure and things, right? There are some spiritual systems that teach to just destroy the material impulse in ourselves, just get rid of it, right? Plato's not saying that. Also, you can have an imbalance of that spirited quality called thumos in Greek, that spirited desire to go out and achieve. So overachievers, they've fed the white horse too much. Now, of course, it should go without saying that the ancient Greeks, they were not talking about like race or anything. That's not what they meant. I think that it was more the symbolism of like the dark earth, and then the spirited quality is like a fiery quality. What does fire do? It produces light. But anyways, those overachievers, they don't really give themselves times to relax because they're just always pushing themselves, right? So that's that thumos, that spirited quality. They're always pushing themselves, but they don't give themselves times to relax, have beautiful surroundings, enjoy, kind of relax, chill a little bit. You ever meet these type A people? They're just so pushing themselves that they can never just chill. Even going they can go on a vacation and they're just checking their phone all the time and still trying to do business from their vacation. So the key to this, and there are also people, even though it's the charioteer here, that are too rational. They're too in their heads. They don't deal with their appetitive or their spirited qualities. They're too focused in their logic. So really the idea is harmonia. Now Pythagoras, who gave us this kind of like number symbolism, okay, this kind of theology of arithmetic, as Iamblichus would later say. And Pythagoras is credited, whether he actually discovered or not, he's credited with discovering the musical scale, that you could take a string, and this is kind of getting into sacred geometry and into music. The idea that music can help to tune the soul. By contemplating things of beauty and harmony, we're able to heal the soul to a degree. By looking at things that have divine proportion, by listening to music that has harmony, it kind of tunes the soul. But you notice if you take a string and you put it directly in half and pluck it, it's the same as the whole string, but at one octave higher. So he divided the music scale, and there's fourths and fifths on a string. So this idea of harmony in music, which is a mathematical proportion. So the key is what he called justice here, which is to give each his due, or her due. So the key is not to kill the appetite of quality, or to kill off one side, or to kill off the logic. The key is to give to each horse and the charioteer his or her due. Okay, it's proportion. It's proportion, it's harmony. And the way to tame these things are through the practice of the virtues. So when you want to have sex and eat pizza and take a nap, that's that appetite of quality. And often that's at odds with that spirited quality to go out there and seize the day. And then we have the logical aspect. So, and Plato says that the soul of man, the charioteer, is meant to go upward to the land of the gods, okay? You can even get this kind of idea of the Jewish Merkava, right? You're ascending. That's the goal of the charioteer, is to move upwards into the divine realm. But because we are unable to control the horses, we come down to the earth and we incarnate in matter. So this is what drives the wheel of rebirth and reincarnation, is that we cannot control our horses. So our desire for physical pleasures keep us incarnated. And, all of these things basically being not in proportion, we come down and we end up incarnating. Now, the way to tame the horses. So if you could, it's like stringing your instrument, or it's like plucking your strings according to a divine harmony, where the soul itself is like a lyre, or the soul is a musical instrument. Okay, so by having everything according to proportion, okay, it's like plucking the strings according to harmony, each according to its due. So the way to do this is through the practice of the virtues. Temperance is what gets the black horse, or the appetitive part of the soul, in line. Temperance. The practice of moderation in eating. It's not saying you don't ever eat, but you eat in moderation. It's not saying don't have sex or don't enjoy sensual pleasures. But see, if we don't control the appetitive part of the soul, then it can overtake us. So the key is temperance. And the way to get the spirited part of ourselves to be more easily led is through fortitude or strength, courage. Okay, it takes courage, fortitude, and then wisdom is the virtue for the logical aspect. So if you imagine a type of triangle, wisdom, fortitude, and temperance. And giving each according to his due here, the charioteer and the two horses, is itself a form of justice or divine proportion. So this is something that I would like to talk about a lot more, is getting into, Platonism and Neoplatonism and Pythagoreanism and things like that in my videos. Because this is really at the root of the Western mystery tradition, the Western esoteric tradition. And so I think it's important. So in these videos, I plan to go more in depth into these topics. So I'm going to read here Plato's chariot allegory. So let's get into this. And this is taken from the Phaedras. The Phaedras is a much longer text. We'll be here for a couple hours reading that. Nope, not today, yo. We're just going straight to the allegory that's within the text. So this is Plato's chariot allegory of the soul. And you'll notice a similarity with the chariot card in many tarot decks is basically this. You look at the chariot card, the chariot tarot card, you see a charioteer oftentimes, like in the Rider-Waite-Smith deck, with the white horse and a black horse, and the charioteer. So let's take a look. This is an excerpt from the Phaedras. This is Socrates speaking. Well, it's really Plato wrote this, but Plato would do dialogues with his teacher Socrates. So here we go. This is Socrates speaking. Every soul is immortal. Every soul is immortal. For that which is ever moving is immortal. But that which moves something else or is moved by something else, when it ceases to move, ceases to live. Only that which moves itself, since it does not leave itself, never ceases to move, and this is also the source and beginning of motion for all other things which have motion, but the beginning is ungenerated. So it talks about the soul is immortal and self-moving, as opposed to body, which is moved by something else. For everything that is generated must be generated from a beginning, but the beginning is not generated from anything. For if the beginning were generated from anything, it would not be generated from a beginning. And since it is ungenerated, it must also be indestructible. For if the beginning were destroyed, it could never be generated from anything, nor anything else from it, since all things must be generated from a beginning. So it's talking about the immortal soul that has no beginning or end. Thus that which moves itself must be the beginning of motion, and this can be neither destroyed nor created. Otherwise all the heavens and all generation must fall in ruin and stop, and never again have any source of motion or origin. But since that which is moved by itself has been seen to be immortal, one who says that this self-motion is the essence and the very idea of the soul will not be disgraced. For every body which derives motion from without is soulless, but that which has its motion within itself has a soul, since that is the nature of the soul. But if this is true, that which moves itself is nothing else than the soul, then the soul would necessarily be ungenerated and immortal. So you get this idea that any living being that is self-moving has soul. Concerning the immortality of the soul, this is enough. But about its form, we must speak in the following manner. To tell you what the soul really is would be a matter utterly superhuman and long discourse, but it is within human power to describe the soul in a figure. So he's going to talk about the soul in a figure of speech. Let us therefore speak in that way. We will liken the soul to the composite nature of a pair of winged horses and a charioteer. Now the horses and charioteers of the gods are all good and of good descent. So he refers even to the deities as having these four parts. What is that? Okay. Now the horses and charioteers of the gods are all good and of good descent, but those of other beings are mixed. And first the charioteer of the human soul drives a pair. And secondly, one of the horses is noble, and of noble breed, the spirited, but the other quite the opposite in breed and character, the appetitive. Therefore, in our case, the driving is necessarily difficult and troublesome. Talking about the driving of the chariot of the soul. Now, we must try to tell why a living being is called mortal or immortal. Soul, considered collectively, has the care of all that which is soulless, and it traverses the whole heaven, appearing sometimes in one form and sometimes in another. Now when it is perfect and fully winged, it mounts up. So when the soul is perfect and fully winged, it mounts upward and governs the whole world. But the soul which has lost its wings is borne along until it gets hold of something solid, the earth. This is incarnation. So let me repeat that. Now when the soul is perfect and fully winged, it mounts upwards and governs the whole world. But the soul which has lost its wings is borne along until it gets hold of something solid, the earth, incarnating, taking upon itself an earthly body, which seems to be self-moving because of the power of the soul within it. And the whole compound of soul and body is called a living being, and is further designated as mortal. So when we lose control of the horses, we come down and incarnate. He's talking about the mystery of incarnation, being born, and why this wheel of rebirth. It's because we lose control of the horses. It is not immortal by any reasonable supposition, but we, though we have never seen or rightly conceived a God, imagine an immortal being, which has both a soul and a body, which are united for all time. Let that, however, in our words concerning it, be as is pleasing to God. We will now consider the reason why the soul loses its wings. It is something like this. So now he's going to talk about why the soul loses its wings, comes down to earth and incarnates as a human life. For example, the natural function of the wing is to soar upwards and carry that which is heavy up to the place where dwells the gods. More than any other thing that pertains to the body, it partakes of the nature of the divine. But the divine is beauty, wisdom, goodness, and all such qualities. By these, then, the wings of the soul are nourished and grow. So the wings of the soul are nourished by beauty and wisdom and goodness, divine things. But by the opposite qualities, such as vileness, foulness, and evil, they are wasted away and destroyed. So we lose our wings due to foulness and evil. Now the great leader in heaven, Zeus, driving a winged chariot, goes first, arranging all things and caring for all things. Zeus is followed by an army of gods and spirits, arrayed in 11 squadrons. Hestia alone remains in the house of the gods. Of the rest, those who are included among the 12 great gods and are accounted leaders are assigned each to his place in the army. There are many blessed sights, in many ways hither and thither within the heaven, along which the blessed gods go to and fro, attending each to his own duties. And whoever wishes and is able, follows, for jealousy is excluded from the celestial band. But when they go to a feast and banquet, talking about the gods, they proceed steeply upward to the top of the vault of heaven, where the chariots of the gods, whose well-matched horses obey the rein, advance easily, but the others with difficulty, for the horse of evil nature weighs the chariot down, making it heavy. So our desires for fleshly things makes it heavy and pulling towards the earth because it's not under control. The charioteer whose horse is not well trained. There the utmost toil and struggle await the soul. For those that are called immortal, when they reach the top, pass outside and take their place on the outer surface of the heaven. And when they have taken their stand, the revolution carries them round, and they behold the things outside of heaven. Now he talks about the procession of the gods. One could also assume that he's talking about celestial gods, the planetary spheres in orbit. One could assume, right? Maybe. Which is this idea of Merkaba, or ascent in a chariot, right? Or vehicle. All right. But the region above the heaven was never worthily sung by any earthly poet, nor will it ever be. It is, however, as I shall tell. For I must dare to speak the truth, especially as truth is my theme. For the colorless, formless, and intangible truly existing essence, with which all true knowledge is concerned, holds this region and is visible only to the mind, the pilot of the soul. Now the divine intelligence, since it is nurtured on mind and pure knowledge, and the intelligence of every soul which is capable of receiving that which befits it, rejoices in seeing reality for a space of time, and by gazing upon truth is nourished and made happy until the revolution brings it again to the same place. In the revolution, the soul, it's talking about the soul that's in the divine realm. In the revolution, that's if we gain the control of the horses. In the revolution, the soul beholds, this is like after death, basically, right? Or pre-incarnate, if you have control of the horses. In the revolution, it beholds absolute justice, temperance, and knowledge. So it's in the realm of the Platonic ideas. In the revolution, it beholds absolute justice, temperance, and knowledge. No such knowledge as has a beginning and varies as is associated with one or another things that we call realities, but that which abides in the real eternal absolute. And in the same way it beholds and feeds upon the other eternal verities, after which, passing down again within the heaven, it goes home. And there the charioteer puts up the horses at a manger, and feeds them with ambrosia, and gives them nectar to drink. Such is the life of the gods. But of the other souls, and it's saying that human souls can attain this same thing. Now he is speaking in a figure, but it's very suggestive here, very evocative. Such is the life of the gods. But of the other souls, that which best follows after God and is most like him, raises the head of the charioteer up into the outer region, and is carried round in the revolution, troubled by the horses, and hardly beholding the realities. And another sometimes rises and sometimes sinks, and because its horses are unruly, because it can't control the horses, it sees some things and fails to see others. The other souls follow after, all yearning for the upper region, but unable to reach it, and are carried round beneath, trampling upon and colliding with one another, each striving to pass its neighbor. So there is the greatest confusion and sweat of rivalry, wherein many are lamed and many wings are broken through the incompetence of the drivers. And after much toil, they all go away without gaining a view of reality. And when they have gone away, they feed upon opinion. But the reason of the great eagerness to see where the plain of truth is, lies in the fact that the fitting pasturage for the best part of the soul is in the meadow there, and the wing on which the soul is raised up is nourished by this. And this is the law of destiny, that the soul which follows after God, and obtains a view of any of the truths, is free from harm until the next period, and if it can always attain this, is always unharmed. But when, through inability to follow, it fails to see, and through some mischance is filled with forgetfulness and evil, and grows heavy, and when it has grown heavy, loses its wings, and falls to the earth, then it is the law that this soul shall never pass into any beast at its first birth, but the soul that has been seen the most shall enter into the birth of a man who is to be a philosopher, or a lover of beauty, or one of musical or loving nature, and the second soul into that of a lawful king, or warlike ruler, and the third into that of a politician, or a man of business, or a financier, the fourth into that of a hard-working gymnast, or one who will be concerned with the cure of the body, and the fifth will lead the life of a prophet, or someone who conducts mystic rites. To the sixth, a poet, or some other imitative artist will be united. To the seventh, a craftsman or a husbandman. To the eighth, a sophist or a demagogue. to the ninth a tyrant. So it talks about how we could end this wheel of rebirth, at least for a revolution, whatever that means, if we can just control the horses, and if we can keep ourselves beholding the beautiful sights and not sinking back into forgetfulness, we could kind of maintain ourselves in the heavens without sinking back down. But when we become forgetful and we can't control our appetites or our horses, we sink back down to earth and we incarnate in a human life. And that's why we are in the wheel of rebirth, or reincarnation, metempsychosis, as the Greeks called it. Now, the practical virtue or quality of all this is this idea of the tripartite soul. So anytime you want to achieve something, right? Anytime you want to achieve something, that's the spirited horse. And anytime that you just kind of want to sit at home and relax and, I don't know, eat pizza rolls and have sex, it's not wrong, but that can keep us from going out and achieving. And then there's the logical faculty. Sometimes we want things. We want to go out and conquer things, and it doesn't make sense to us logically. Clearly, the spirited quality is separate from the logic. It's not a rational thing. It's that spirited, heroic quality within us, that fiery quality. And clearly, these two horses fight a lot. Let's say you want to go to the gym, but you have trouble getting out of bed and you're being lazy. That's those two horses warring. And then separate from both, you have your logic. So I think it's a useful way to think about the human psyche or mind and the soul, is that we have our logic, that's the charioteer that should govern, and the spirited horse and the appetitive horse, okay? It's the white and the black horse, and we have to keep them in line. And the one that's the most trouble is the appetitive. But he doesn't say kill the horse, you need both. So the key to this is what is called justice, or harm. What is justice? To give each to his due. To feed both horses, to give each its own portion, right? You can't just be spirited and achieve. You have to relax and have some R&R, rest and relaxation. But that can't be all of it. And you can't totally just have your logic. You have to have all three sides. So justice here, divine harmony, is to give each a portion to his or her due. And the way to tame these beasts so that you could achieve your goals. Okay, if you can, this is why it's so practical. If you can get your horses in line, you get mystical ascent and also a better life. You're able to achieve your goals in life. You're able to self-actualize. So it's not just a spirituality detached from matter. It's both. Gaining control of the horses will help you to have a better financial and every way life, but it will also help you in a mystical ascent to the divine. So it does both. And how do you control the horses? Through the practice of the virtues. So temperance. I really want people to think about this practice of temperance. Temperance is what gets the appetitive part of the soul in check. Temperance. Fortitude or courage is what gets the spirited part of you under control. And wisdom should reign the logical part. So this is Plato's tripartite soul. Logic, spirited, and appetitive. These are the three parts of and if you look at the chariot card, it's the charioteer and the two horses that together represent kind of a yin and yang, hot and cold, male, female, black, white, expansive, contractive. It's like polarity, like the two nodes on a battery. But here it is the appetitive quality that draws us to earth, the spirited quality that makes us expansive and want to achieve, and then the reason. And how do you do that? You need harmony. You need, like a musical instrument, you tune the soul to harmony and proportion by giving to each according to his due. You feed both horses and the charioteer. You give all of them their space. but you keep them under control through the practice of temperance, fortitude, and wisdom. So, and the practice of the virtues brings the soul to beauty. And what is beauty? Beauty is a divine quality based on harmony and proportion, beauty and justice. Why is it that a string of catgut or a string on a monochord obeys certain laws when you pluck the string? It's not just one string, it's any string. Clearly these laws must be above any material body. And the fact that these laws exist that are above any material object shows for Plato that these laws are Platonic ideas. They exist in a supra-mundane realm, a realm that is above nature as we understand it in the material world. So it's not materialism, it's an idealism. We may experience beauty or justice. And what is beauty? Beauty is proportion, okay? It's harmony and proportion. By looking at sacred geometry, by listening to music that obeys kind of this sacred harmony of music, proportion music, we're able to harmonize the soul, and we ourselves become harmonized. The soul is like a lyre or a musical instrument that's tuned to the divine harmony, the music of the spheres. So, I guess that's it for tonight. This is a video for Patreon. I really do appreciate y'all hanging with me in these videos. And tomorrow I'm going to do the next Shem Angel. And I'm going deeper and deeper into medieval astrology and Renaissance astrology. And I would like to do a couple of things with this channel. I'd like to get more into how classical astrology works, and looking at things like the Lord of the Ascendant and the Nativity Angel and things like that. And also I'm very much interested in theurgy, Pythagoreanism. There's an excellent book that I highly recommend called the Pythagorean Source Book. It has all of these texts from late antiquity compiled, put together. So you're not just reading what some modern person says. You're reading Iamblichus and Archytas and Nicomachus. You're reading these classical writers on the Pythagorean philosophy. So at the roots of Western esotericism, you have Pythagoreanism and Platonism and things like that. And I'm very fascinated by theurgy and the idea that ritual magic is not just for practical things like thaumaturgy, but that through ritual magic you could reach kenosis in union with the divine. So through the performance of ritual, it could be redemptive for the soul. So that's really fascinating. But anyways, thank you so much for joining me. And I guess I'll see y'all tomorrow. We're going to get into the next Shem Angel. I hope everyone's still doing the Shem Angel work and hanging in there. And I will see you in the next video. All right. Have a great day, y'all. Thank you so much.